So we are going live now. Okay, we are live now. Welcome everyone. This is once again your host Shailesh from New Zealand World News Positive. And we are bringing you today a topic called messaging. And we have got a very special guest, a renowned, esteemed guest today with us all the way from US. Bill Dolan is a name not to be missed. He's an Emmy nominated producer and director of Spirit Media, a US-based creative agency. So as you can see, he is already a creative person. And today we are going to listen from him, the messaging part of creative messaging, I would call it. But today's topic, we are going to break down into a few episodes, but today's topic is all about morality of ethicals of the messaging. And Bill is the author of 7DRM, the 7 disciplines of relationship marketing, and he also works on the advisory council for the Stanley Foundation. So that works to teach every young person to discover the hero inside. And today we have the pleasure of inviting him in our show to talk about a topic that is relevant to all the creatives, but also relevant to everyone. And also particularly the kids and the youth, that how do they message so that they can create a generation of messaging, effective, impactful, and very, very, humble and kindness of messaging. Today, we are living in a world of so much uncertainties, and then we have got to communicate effectively. So what more than I have got the pleasure to ask Bill Dolan from US, who is going to talk about this. But before I go to him, I'm going to also introduce to him and hear from Haley, the co-host of my show, who is going to introduce herself, but also she's going to like to know more about what exactly this is we are going to talk about. So I will go straight to Haley. Haley, welcome once again as my co-host. As always, you look cheerful, beautiful.
Thank
you. Please take the reins from here.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. You're such a multifaceted human being and so fascinating. I could ask you questions all day. But for now, in this segment, what I would really like to hear about is more about the psychology and ethics behind digital communications, such as advertising and media. I know there's a lot of subliminal messaging and morality questions that come into it. And I believe you could speak about that for so long that it's probably all I'm going to lead us into today, and we can cover every other little question I have in the other episodes. So without any further ado, you can take it away, Bill.
Well, thanks, Haley. Thanks, Shailesh. It's great to be here. Absolutely fabulous to be here. And of course, we've been friends for quite a while, and Haley and I are new friends, but clearly we're going to be friends for life. You know, a fellow artist, and I can tell a person that genuinely cares, not just about the idea of marketing and art, but the idea of the role that we play in all of humanity. And I think one of the things that's important for all of us to remember, that business is not just sits in an isolation chamber. The nature of business is it is literally injected into every aspect of life. And the reason it's injected in every aspect is because it needs to generate profit. It needs to engage with people. It needs to connect, and of course, to form transactions so that they can be profitable. But here's where the dilemma occurs, is when you think about a business, you realize it's run by people. And every person has to really have a heart test that says, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I really called to do? What are the missions that are necessary for me to fulfill my purpose? And those deeper questions often get washed away by the rush to make a profit. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Here in the US, we have a lot of sports. I know New Zealand, we've got fabulous sports and football and rugby and all these different things. And, we grow up watching people hit whatever that goal mark is and thrusting the ball into the ground to say, I've achieved it. I am now a winner, and the crowds cheer. In business, what that usually looks like is profit. But in life, what that really looks like is what difference and impact have you actually made in the world? And there's a way to do that it doesn't have to conflict. That the hitting the goal does not have to be, I do it just to worship me, but hitting the goal can be a way that says, I have served you exceptionally well. And that's where I pray that marketing really goes. Now, because we've talked about the dilemma, it has pervaded our culture, I believe, in a really painful way that's hurt people more than they even realize. And that's this, that for most marketers to do what they do and sell what they need to sell, what they're really doing is selling you on your inadequacy. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
You're a pretty good guy. You're a pretty smart person, but you'd be better if you drove my car. You'd be better if you smelled the way I want you to smell. You'd be better if you dressed the way I want you to dress. You'd be better if you lived in this place I want you to live. And then go down the list. Everything from a candy bar to real estate. Most of them are ultimately saying, you'd be better if you had this. Secretly saying, there's an inadequacy in you that can be met with a purchase. And knowing that right now, and Haley, you mentioned digital marketing. I mean, I've been in the TV business for a long, long time. And it used to be, we had commercials. In other words, you could watch a program and a commercial comes up, and usually that means go get something to eat. But so people are bombarded, so you can actually have a break. We are now at a point through digital marketing that cuts across all media formats, across virtually all landscapes that we touch, that most people are impacted by some brand impression over 5,000 times in a single day. So there's a barrage coming at us at a level that is unprecedented in the history of mankind. And you wonder about mental health. You wonder about where people are physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And you say, what are the contributors to this? Now, I'm not about to tell you that, because of marketing, we're all dying. But I will say this, that of all the experiences we do have in our life, this is a contributing factor that does play a role in the well-being of humanity. So how do we get around that? I mean, businesses still need to sell, and people still have products they want to buy. Okay, I have no problem. Look, I don't judge you because you drive a Rolls Royce. Most people didn't know that, but it's good to know. No, I'm joking.
I know.
You don't know what I drive.
What we drive, and I have no problem with that. I love fashion. I love style. I love excellence. I love precision. And excellence and craftsmanship are all beautiful things, as long as we recognize there's a reason why we do it, and there's a bad reason why we do it. If it's to make up for my inadequacy, not so good. If it's a desire and a love and a passion and interest and a fascination, I'm fine with that. So how do we get around that? Well, we can't change the fact that virtually every human being struggles with some level of imposter syndrome. Wondering, no, I could be better. I'm not as smart as I could be. Look, that's just the way life is. And eventually, everybody can make that decision to hopefully grow and realize the blessing they are, the miracle they are, how incredible they are, and celebrate the talents they have and the gifts they have. But I can't change that. That's your decision. But for marketers, I think we can have a call to action, and that's certainly the desire of my book, The 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing, is the call to action for marketers and business people to say, your life and your business is bigger than that. And what if, instead of just focusing on transaction, we actually looked into the eyes of our audience? Instead of just looking at our need to sell, what if we look at the needs and the wants of our audience? And how can we serve them better? By the way, it's not only a great human thing to do, it's great business. And I know we've talked about having multiple episodes of this, that we're going to go into deeper what this means, but I'll give you a little tease. When you start building out what we call the 10-digit human address to really understand people, it's not just a way of honoring them. You're going to find out it's one of the most powerful ways to not just market, but to literally create a movement with your product or service. But that's for another time.
Yes. Okay. So just picking up from where you were saying about profits, I heard the word profits in this messaging. I heard the word emotional well-being or the mental health of humans, which is quite an important ingredient of this messaging that we were talking about. So I wanted to elaborate a little bit further down that how can we change our behaviors as a result of advertising, or what are these negative effects of advertising on our society when it comes to that? What would you say? And like, how consciously can we use the power of advertising to improve the society, in your words?
Well,
there's 3 questions in this.
yeah,
but I guess we wanted to have this episode a very concise and very to the point, and we can go deep dive. And if audiences, please do write to us if you need more information about it, because we will be always there now for a little while to answer all your questions and feedback. So sorry for comparing these 3 questions into one. People over profits.
It's fine, and I'm just glad you didn't add the meaning of life question in there. That would have put it over the top. Haley's way to jump that one in. Well, one of the things in my book that I think it starts with is really challenging the heart of every leader, and that is to recognize that, you've been given a gift.
Yeah.
And it's a gift of influence, but even more so. And it goes back to the experience that triggered me to write my book. And that was a death experience when I died. And when I had my death experience and I came back, obviously I had a lot of profound lessons that emerged from that experience. But one of them was the clear recognition that, you know what, every day that I get up, it's not like I earned it or I deserved it. It's not like I put a quarter in a slot that said, okay, you get another day of life. It's the full recognition that my life, our life, is a gift. The next breath we take is a gift. And because we have been given this incredible gift, it begs the question, how are we going to use this gift? And how can we pay this forward in multiplying it in the lives of others? And the beauty of business is that it gives us the privilege of being injected into a unique group of people that share an interest in whatever product or service we can bring to the table. Now, since it is a gift, then it also demands of me to think, I need to give a gift. It's not that I've been given this gift, now I want to take more. It's I've been given this gift and I want to give more. So the first discipline that I really encourage every leader to consider is this question. What is your why? What is your purpose? And to recognize it seems like sometimes a cosmic question or some universal divine question that belongs, something that we might do, at church or chapel or wherever we worship, some place, but not in our business. But I'm going to challenge you. I think it belongs in your business. I think it belongs in every aspect of your life. And I believe it is the essence of the word integrity. Now, we all talk about, integrity is a good thing. We always want to have integrity. But integrity at its root comes from the same root word we get, integer. In other words, whole number. So when we're operating integrity, we become that whole number. We become that whole person. It means it doesn't matter what angle you look at us. We're the same. So it's not like I'm two-faced. Here's my daddy face or my friend face or my lover face, and here's my business face. This is who I am. And this is why I live. And when you start recognizing the integration of the whole person, that changes the face of business so that we no longer have an excuse to have a different moral compass from 9 to 5 as we do have from 5 to 9. We have the same moral compass, but even more exciting, we have a moral opportunity from 9 to 5 that we might not have from 5 to 9. Because instead of infecting 5 people or 4 people or whatever your inner circle is, businesses have the capacity to impact millions. And that millions can be multiplied. And rather than just multiplying with a product, how about multiplying from a position of service and integrity? So that changes. That's basically, it changes, not your product, not necessarily service, but what it does is it changes the very framework with now how you go about doing it. And if businesses and marketers start from that framework, we now have a foundation from which we can move from transaction to productive and meaningful relationships that can be multiplied. So that's really step one. We do that.
Yeah.
We could change the world just with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said.
With those ethics in mind and the idea between wanting to change the world in a positive way, what are your thoughts about subliminal messaging? Because I understand that roughly about 95% of our brain power is distributed to our unconscious thoughts, and that most of our meaningful decisions are actually made at a subconscious level. Should we use that power of marketing and digital communication to change that opinion, or is it inherently insidious to take advantage of that power that we have with our knowledge of psychology and neuroscience in mind? I'd like to know what the moral ethics are in your opinion.
Well, I think that's a fabulous question, Haley. And and I think you bring to the forefront something that I think most of us in the psychology, neuroscience, and marketing world know, that we can be fed messages through our front left cortex, but through our limbic system, we absorb feelings and sensations, and we can literally tattoo the hippocampus with messages and brands and feelings, which, long as you and I know that happens, it's not whether we should use it, we are using it.
Yeah.
Now, we may be using it unconsciously or consciously, but it's happening. And I think there's a moral, I'll say, obligation that says, since I know that every word that comes out of my mouth is having an impact on your life, and I could yell it, I could whisper it, I could sing it. Each one has an impact. And if I understand that, I believe I have a moral obligation to honor you by doing it in a way that helps you, esteems you, strengthens you, builds you up, makes you stronger, makes our experience together an enriching experience. Now, if part of that is, oh, you want to buy something from me, and I say, oh, by the way, I sell mice for computers. Hey, would you like to buy this mouse? You know, that's a fine addition to the relationship. You know, but if I'm sneaking behind you going, you want to buy a mouse? Buy this mouse. You know, let's not be sneaky. I think part of that about integrity aspect also involves not just being a person of integrity, but deciding that I'm going to remove the veils that rob you of hearing my heart, my message, or my intentions. And as a marketer, if I feel like I have to put up a veil to hide my intentions, yeah, I may hurt you, I might deceive you, but I got a lot of me issues to deal with. And let's face it, there's a lot of businesses believe that that's the right way to do business. And even when you say the word relationship, what they mean, they think, is I'm going to pretend to like you. I'm going to pretend to ask about your children. I'm going to pretend to ask about your art and not care. But I'm going to give you the illusion of caring as a gateway to feign interest so that you will then feel more comfortable about buying from me. And that is an insidious veil that is a lie and an act of deception.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely wrong. So this is a long way of getting back to your question, and that is, are there subliminal ways? Yes. Now that we know them, yes, let's use them in a way to understand that what you hear in your head is not any more sacred than what I plant in your heart. And I want to make sure that the words I say are true, are right, they're honest, and I'm going to be deliberate about it, whether it's subconscious or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think it
it's
does.
less the question about if, but more how.
Yeah.
Oh, how?
Yeah, how we can use it, seeing as it's happening every day, no matter what we do. It's how we use that power.
Well, let me jump on that. Sorry, Shailesh, because it's a really important question.
Sure.
One of the things I reference in my book, and we use this at our agency here at Spirit Media, it's this knowledge that every touch point will build or undermine your brand. Every touch point. And so the how is actually to take inventory of every touch point and know that as human beings, I believe we're spiritual creatures too, but at the very least, we can look at 5 senses and just start there. What's the inventory of the 5 senses? What are the different ways that we smell and receive that? What are the different ways that we taste or absorb? What are the different ways we hear? What are the different ways we see? What are the different ways we feel? And when you think about, for example, wanting to know your audience, again, we're going to talk more about that later when we deal with personification and avatars and creating that 10-digit human address. Part of that 10-digit human address is what is their buying journey, and honor that buying journey. And so thinking about that buying journey, that means I have to be very cognizant to walk through that and say, what's their first exposure? What's the impression and what is the decision they make at the next exposure? What are the intersections of that exposure? What do they see? What do they feel? What do they do? What do they want them to experience? What's the honorable way to facilitate that journey and not manipulate that journey?
Yeah.
And so the same way you'd say, gee, I'm you're in a relationship with somebody. Well, we're in a relationship with our audience, and let's just get it out of the block right now. I say it again. Shailesh has heard me say this. Relationships are hard.
Yeah.
And they can be hard for a number of reasons. I won't go into those.
Yeah, no.
But let me just say this. The number one reason that they're hard is because they take work. They take effort. They take energy. They demand that you pay attention. And if you think about relationships, how many times have one of the biggest obstacles is communication?
Yes.
Oh, you don't hear me. You don't understand me. You don't know really what my wants are. Or you can't read my mind, so something's wrong with you. Of course, I'm joking there. But as a marketer, you have to go in from that approach. And it's hard work, but it is the most rewarding work, because when you have done exactly what you're talking about, Haley, I'm thinking about what are all these touch points? Doesn't mean I'm going to get all of them. I'm human. People are human. We can't read minds. But the effort that we pour into saying, I know that you're worthy to be loved. I know that you're worthy to be honored. I know that you're worthy to be respected. And for that reason, you're worthy to be known and communicated in a manner that loves, honors, respects you, and helps you fulfill the journey that you are pursuing, whether it is your career or whether you want to buy this mouse.
Yeah, no, I totally get, Bill. It was beautiful. What I understood from your saying was, in marketing world, in today's and messaging world, that we want to know. What you touched on, honesty, integrity, and then transparency of the whole people, that when we develop relationship or when we want to do something, when we want to sell something. So these three ingredients of I could hear from you is all the audiences probably understand that first and foremost is the honesty, integrity, and the transparency of whatever you do in your messaging. And that's what I could. So to elaborate that, I wanted to go further and say, in the evolution of this advertising and media, how has marketing messaging changed over time? And how do you see its future? If I have to ask this, the way we message today, the way we were messaging yesterday, and what's the future like? What would you say on that?
Well, it's good news, bad news.
That's good.
Yeah, it really is. I'd love to say, oh my gosh, it's getting better. And this is like, marketing and business and the relationships we all have is really at its core an expression of the human heart. It really is. And guess what? Hurting people will hurt other people. Unhealthy people will create unhealthy environments. And the values through which we judge our well-being. I mean, let's face it, all of us at our core want to love and be loved.
Yeah.
Okay. That is one universal thing. However, it is the methodology through which we have been taught that you're going to receive love. Now, the old adage throughout history was that humans are driven by money, power, and sex. Money, that if I could accumulate a lot, I'll be loved more. Power, if I have strength and power and leadership, and all of a sudden I'm the one at the top of the podium with the microphone, I'll be loved more. And sex is sometimes a misnomer, because a lot of people think it's about having sex. It's really about desire and being desired. And for example, when we see people in a celebrity position and they're being celebrated and they're getting this attention, maybe they're an actor or they're a political, whatever it is, and we see someone being desired, That's at the core of that belief that if I could have that, whether it's followers or people that would engage with me or watch my program or watch my TV program or watch my movie, or I would be on the red carpet, I could be loved. Those are the secret messages that culture is telling us, that if you want to be loved, this is how you get there.
Yeah.
And as long as we live in a world where people will advance that philosophy, and we live in a world where people will believe that philosophy, then that means that there's going to be people that will errantly follow belief systems and business models that will be built on that philosophy.
Yeah.
And so if profit's what you want and you believe that that's all you're going to get, and that's how you're going to get love, there may be some very inappropriate ways that you can do that. And we know, I don't know your audience, but I'll be blunt here, the United States here, talking here. If you want to be a celebrity, have a sex tape. It works. It works. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is there's a lot of really bad ways to accomplish the things we think are
Absolutely.
good. And as long as we make that connection, that's where our world goes. So I can't predict where all the marketing goes. I can say this: it's going to get more technical, it's going to get more advanced, and it's going to get cooler and more insidious all at the same time. But the product of it is going to be driven by the morality and the heart of the people using it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great to hear your positive take on it, as well as your realistic take on it. And I know that they're just going to get smarter and smarter over time. But for now, just for any listeners, are there any common strategies that we do fall for without our knowledge, just as a way to protect our mental health or check ourselves when we notice an emptiness within our heart due to this advertising? Is there anything that we can be aware of just to protect our heart, essentially?
Well, that's a giant, beautifully filled question, Haley.
Oh, thank you.
And honestly, there's only one thing that I would say, and that is, as much as I say relationships are hard, and one of the greatest things that we need to do in a relationship is pay attention, recognize that one of the most important relationships you have in your life is with yourself. And in paying attention to you, paying attention to how you feel and why you feel that way. In many cases, a lot of us in life, and I mean, it starts in childhood, we feel hungry, or we feel needy, or we want to be held, or we want to be cuddled, or we want to be warmer or colder. Those types of feelings are natural. They're part of a combination of physiological and spiritual experiences we have that create need, that we feel usually first before we acknowledge the root of that. And instead of just responding and living a life of reaction, if we can take that extra nanosecond to live a deliberate life of reflection after reaction, it means that we can start just the way we'd be driving a car. Look at the dashboard of life and recognize that there are red lights that pop up when there's danger under the hood. And we all get those red lights. They start out as feelings. And there's a way that the more you pay attention to the under the hood of your own heart, you can have a more reflective and less reactive life and not be so prone to it. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel it. Our people say, oh, feelings aren't valid. Feelings are valid. However, how you respond to those feelings may be good or bad. It's that piece that if we're able to be cognizant of that and take the right reaction to say, we're just referring to marketing, I'm not going to buy that. guess what? Even though there's a deal today, my life is no less if I don't get that deal today. I can't eat savings.
That's a
Beautiful.
good way to end it.
So when you recognize that piece, just start asking those questions. All of a sudden, the game changes.
I can't eat savings.
I mean, this is absolutely 100% the spiritual kicks in every human. And we have to kick in this spirituality inside us to understand the meaning of what is good for me now and what is good for me tomorrow, or what was good for me yesterday. But understanding these core values of a human journey is very, very vital in all messaging. So, it's amazing that what you are giving me these insights today. I mean, we started this topic today, listeners, all the listeners who are listening, we can understand. We started with morality as our messaging. So morality is the key, but then we went on to transparency, integrity, honesty, all these things which a human being is made up of. But also our subconscious mind, which is also not in our control, which drives us to take certain decisions which may be a wrong messaging or which may affect our messaging. So that's another aspect that we also touched today with subconscious mind. And also what Haley mentioned before also was very good in terms of the power of psychology and marketing that comes in and kicks in. So, we are really blessed today, Bill, that you have been touching this core values of marketing and messaging. I think these are real values that all listeners, as an invaluable thing that you are giving us today.
I feel like we went from morality to mindfulness.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say that. Oh, that's good. Thank you so much, Haley. Yeah, morality to mindfulness. And I think we will touch more subjects like that in the coming episodes. But today's is all about start of the launch of this messaging episode. So I am going to also talk about now today, one thing I wanted to know from you, Bill, as my final, also being in the media, you being understanding the media, you've been understanding the core values of people, whether they are in whatever position they are in. As a celebrity, we touched on lots of things where humans' title becomes an important factor for messaging, or humans' identity becomes, but then you also touched on the spirituality of a human journey as well. No matter what title you hold, spiritual aspects are equally important and more important than any other marketing cosmetics, whether buying a mouse, what you were mentioning, or anything. So I love that. I wanted to ask you this final thing as a media, media nowadays that you see as a bias and manipulation. So can we avoid this? And should we, and how can we, you think in your view, that can be touched as a spiritual heart or honesty, integrity, transparency when it comes to media? So media bias and manipulation is a topic that I would like to know from you. How can we avoid, and should we, basically, in the way today's world we are living in?
Well, it's an excellent question. And there's two things that come to mind. I mean, the first is, and this is just that reality check. Most media is a business.
Yeah.
It's how I grew up working for, one of the networks here in the United States. And when you actually break down that business, you see all the stuff, the TV shows and the stuff like the news shows and all that stuff. And people think that's what they do. The truth is that media at its heart really makes money off of advertising. Now, there's other little ancillary pieces in there, but for the most part, it's advertising. And the only way they get money from advertising is to convince advertisers that media can deliver eyeballs. And that's the real currency of media. It's not dollars, it's eyeballs. And the more eyeballs you can aggregate, the more you can charge, the more you can make. And so media companies, even those that started with the most beautiful altruistic intentions of journalistic integrity, all have to live with the market realities that if they don't bring in eyeballs, they don't make money and they can't sustain themselves. And because many of these are also corporations that are accountable to shareholders, and that's not a bad thing, being honorable to your shareholders, but the constant pressure to honor the shareholders means they need more eyeballs. And that's where the moral dilemma comes up with media. Between what they say is their purpose in terms of serving the public good, because even if you talk to some of the media, the social media, I mean, I came from broadcast media originally, and now we have social media, all these digital platforms. Look, if you talk to a lot of these founders and owners and leaders of that organization, they can spout all these things about the public good and free speech and wanting to do this and do that. That's great. But they also compete with this. We need eyeballs. And that tension that takes place in the newsroom, the boardroom, the creative room, the editorial space, the creative space that goes, we need more eyeballs, is always haunting these enterprises. Now, guess what gets eyeballs? Conflict. Conflict. It's like if you look at, when we think about anybody that grew up in theater, we saw, the two faces.
Yeah.
You see in culture, you see the yin and the yang. Our entire world has been expressed in those sides of the story, and it is amplified in media because they not only can reveal conflict, but they have the power to amplify conflict by what they say, what side they take. That dilemma, that moral dilemma is happening all the time. And I think for all of us as grown-ups can recognize when you watch any media, they are operating and sending you and feeding you it directly to your subconscious and your conscious mind, and I believe your spirit, this conflicted dilemma of this is important, watch more.
Yeah.
Watch more.
Morality and money.
Exactly. So now we're grown-ups. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. And guess what? It's no different than when a candy bar tells you that they added one more peanut. So this one's healthier. This is a healthier candy bar. Let's eat healthy candy. Come on. Come on. We know better than that. So it's only then our dilemma to go, okay, I want to eat candy. Thank you for putting the peanut. I feel better about myself for doing something I know I shouldn't do. Okay? So this is my way of saying, we know what's really going on if we take a pause and think about it. And the other word that immediately jumped into my mind was, because of that, we can turn it off. And we can make decisions about what media we watch and the volume of media we watch. Now, there is a dilemma there too, and that is what I would call positional validation. Again, I can't speak to all the programming you have in beautiful New Zealand and other parts of the world, but here in the United States, we have very, very different view of it. We're a melting pot of cultures that love to fight. They love to fight. It makes great news. We actually don't fight as much as it appears. They show it because it makes great news. Great news. I mean, it's like watching, kids, in a cafeteria having a food fight. Wow, that's fun. But The truth is that there is conflict, and because of that, I think we need to be able to make a decision of whether we're going to feed that, we're going to watch that, and be careful of our own viewpoints, because we can walk down a rabbit trail of validating belief systems that can even mess us up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a good touch point you made. What as a media, I would say to all the listeners who are listening today, this beautiful, amazing topic, messaging, which is our bread and butter kind of daily life, routinely we use, whether you use in any shape or form, messaging, communication is our lifeblood, I would say. And I love touched on some of the learnings that I learned today. Insights was when Haley said money over morality. And then, Bill, you mentioned people over profits or profits over people. How do you message? But also that relates to our subconscious and conscious decisions that we take, or our mind makes us subconsciously lots of decisions that we take subconsciously. But taking a pause, as you mentioned, Bill, was amazing. Just take that pause of understand what is our purpose, what do we want to do. So just make a pause and take those conscious decisions, I guess. From my point perspective, it's amazing what you mentioned just now. So yeah, I think all listeners, as you can see, we touched the topic today, which is beautifully articulated by none other than our creative mind, Will, who has been a great instrumental inspiration and motivational for many people and many things all around the world. But we had the pleasure today to bring him in New Zealand for you and to ask more questions and to take his knowledge and wealth and wisdom. We encourage all of you to write to us and get the feedback, but we will be back with our next episode with the topic with market, because all this relates money and morality and people and profits. They all relate to market. They all relate to us. So we will watch out for that next episode. With this note, I would like to say goodbye and good night to Bill. But before that, I also wanted to go back to Haley and have her last words. And then we'll go to the final word from our guest speaker, who is none other than a very well-known personality that we have got the pleasure to invite and interview him. Over to you, Haley.
Thank you. I just want to say it was absolutely amazing to meet you. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. And I just want to thank you for your positive and uplifting yet realistic take on what we are bombarded with every single day. And I can't wait to hear what you say in the next episode. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I just want to say thank you both. I talk about having discretion with your media. There's only one media that I would say everybody should watch wholeheartedly, and that's really the New Zealand World News. Just make sure you keep watching that, because it's always going to be fun, filled with lots of good information.
Yes, thank you so much for that.
Especially if you come back on.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's really kind of you to do that. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. And it's a knowledge that you can't get by reading the books. You can only get from a person like you who has breath and breathing the life of media, the life of marketing. And actually, it's all within us. It just we have to uncover that consciously. That's what I would say to every listener. And with that, once again, thanks, Bill, for your esteemed time. And we look forward to meeting you once again in our next episode. Thank you.
Oh, we're still live though.
No, we are just going to finish now.